Hello everybody, this is Mr. Smith with another art story for you today. This one is a super silly, super funny story called When Picasso Met Mootise by Miss Nina Laden. And it is based on two real-life artists named Pigasso and Mootise, and they've turned them into animals, which I think is pretty funny. So let's go ahead and give this story a read. When Picasso Met Mootise by Nina Laden. There was once a young pig named Pigasso. And while other piglets rolled in the mud and played games, Pigasso painted. He painted anything and everything, and in a most unusual way. At the same time, there was once a young bull named Mootise. Mootise was not like other bulls. He wasn't interested in bullfighting. Mootise was happy only when he painted pictures, and he painted big, bold, bright pictures. In time, word of Picasso's talent spread throughout the pig provinces. Soon, art-loving pigs from all over lined up to buy his creations. At the same time, Mootise was getting famous in the cattle community. There weren't many households that didn't own a moosterpiece. Pigasso and Mootise were becoming art superstars, but this came with a price. Everybody wanted to see them. Art buyers, art sellers, art students, art historians, art groupies. It was an art attack. One day, Pigasso got fed up and said, "I'm tired of this noisy pig pen." At the same time, Mootise declared, "I'm sick of this crowded cow town." Needing a change, they both decided to look for a peaceful place where they could paint without distractions. So each of the two artists looked far and wide for the perfect spot. Pigasso found a lovely farm looking toward the east, and Mootise found a handsome farm facing the west. After Pigasso moved in, he went to introduce himself to his new neighbor across the road. At the same time, Mootise went to introduce himself to his new neighbor across the road. That is how Pigasso met Mootise. And coincidentally, that's how Mootise met Pigasso. At first, Pigasso and Mootise were friendly and welcomed each other as neighbors. But soon things began to change. It started one day when Pigasso criticized one of Mootise's paintings. Then Mootise made fun of one of Picasso's. Mootise called Pigasso an art hog, and Pigasso called Mootise a mad cow. Mootise quipped, "You paint like a 2-year-old," and Pigasso retorted, "You paint like a wild beast." Mootise raged, "Your colors look like mud," and Pigasso spat, "Your paintings look like color by numbers." Then things got really out of hand. They're making a mess. It was a modern art mess. Holy cow. Pigasso stormed off into his house. "That Mootise doesn't like my art," he huffed. "Well, I'll show him." And Mootise bullied his way into his house. "I'll give that Pigasso something he can really criticize," he snorted. Then a full-scale feud erupted. It was a most unusual battle. Armed with ladders and buckets of paint, Mootise launched the first attack. He started at dawn. By the end of the evening, he had succeeded in transforming the outside of his house into a monster-sized moosterpiece. Not to be outdone, Pigasso fired up his paintbrushes and in full view of the enemy counterattacked. He turned his farm into a huge, outrageous pork of art. The two artists then retreated into their houses and pulled down the shades. Pigasso certainly didn't want to look out his window and stare at a Mootise, and Mootise had no desire to give his rooms a view of a Pigasso. This presented a problem, and there seemed to be only one solution. Without a word to each other, Pigasso and Mootise each began to build a huge wooden fence down the middle of the road. At first, Pigasso and Mootise seemed satisfied. Both artists went back to painting by themselves. But after a while, Pigasso was surprised to find that he missed that bull-headed Mootise. At the same time, Mootise found his studio empty without the presence of pig-headed Pigasso. Pigasso pondered, that Mootise isn't such a bad artist. He has some interesting ideas. Mootise moaned, that Pigasso may not paint like me, but he knows what he's doing. However, being naturally pig-headed and bull-headed, neither artist knew how to apologize to the other. So they did what they do best, and they let their paintbrushes do the talking. Pigasso painted one side of the fence and Mootise painted the other. Each worked until they were exhausted. It was strangely quiet when they were done. Then, curious to see what Mootise had been doing, Pigasso sprinted around to the other side. At the same time, Mootise galloped over to Pigasso's side. The silence was broken as the two artists began laughing at their amazing work of art. From that day on, Pigasso and Mootise became great friends. They happily took down the fence and shared their different views. A few months later, a big museum bought the fence. Pigasso called his side When Pigasso Met Mootise, and Mootise called his side When Mootise Met Pigasso. The critics called it incredible. Check it out, it's in the gallery. They got all these people out here to look at their art. And look, they're at the museum as friends in the Museum of Modern Art. The end. And at the end of our story, we have a little bit of information about the real artists, Pigasso and Mootise, and it tells you a little bit about them there. I hope you guys really enjoyed that story. I think it's a super fun one and super colorful too. I hope you guys are doing well, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye.